This conference will now be recorded.
uh, just a bunch of gift cards is kind of dull. So, yeah, it's made us have to take a little bit. I think we got everything just in time. Although this year, the first year, my folks just phoned it in and said gift cards are coming, and I'm like, they'll be appreciated. So like, hey, you got plenty of years to send Barbies and Legos, you know. So now they just want Amazon and Starbucks. There's the green light. You guys just spent Christmas together, or you came out of a family?
Family, my mom's mom is the house is the social representative.
Oh, okay. So everyone is
Luckily, my brother's two wives, their families, they all come.
I did too.
Thanksgiving Day.
Or who she have?
They're not the worst.
Close by?
No, North Dakota.
North Dakota. Whereabouts?
Yeah, Premier.
Are we ready? Are
Yes,
you
sir.
ready?
Well, Catherine is 100% committed. My son possibly also. Yes. Decision.
Call the meeting of the December 20th meeting of the APC to order. This is my last meeting and I'm messing it up already, you know. All right, first of all, roll call, Mr. Burns.
Jackson Bogan. Jackson Bogan. Larry Leverins.
Here.
Carla Snodgrass. Gary Schroeder.
Here.
Jerry Reynolds. Jerry Reynolds. Greg Jones. Bob Metzger. Diana Looper. Vicki Pearl. Vicki Pearl. Michelle Dennis. Michelle Dennis. Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Perry Brown.
Present.
Tracy Brown.
Present.
Jason Domkowski.
Present.
Lisa Dullum. Kathy Parker. Kathy Parker. Jody Hamilton.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you, sir. Briefing session, Mr. Burns, or staff.
Yes, let me set the table if I may. There's going to be a request, and I would make it, which has to do with suspending the rules about a notice. There was a similar request made several months ago, you may recall, and at that time, as you will find in this case, previously the notice was sufficient under state law, but it was somewhat lacking, slightly lacking under your own rules. You have the ability to modify or to suspend your own rules at any time as long as state law is complied with. In this case, there was a notice deficiency of 1 day out of 21, and I'll let the staff explain the actual factual basis. But essentially, it's twice the state limit, which is great because that means you can suspend your own rules and allow for this late filing so that this matter can proceed and be heard tonight. So as far as the exact dates and things, however you want to state that would be helpful. Thank you.
Would you like a motion on the floor?
Yeah, if you would make a motion, that'd be great. And then he can explain the factual basis.
In regards to Z 2916, I moved to suspend the 21-day rule and allow the case to move forward and be heard this evening.
I second.
It looks like petitioner, there was an error in the notice to the interested parties. The wrong township was advertised or sent to the neighbors. It was fixed and mailed 20 days instead of 21 days out. A new notice was sent. So the neighbors actually received 2 notices.
Okay. So we're really dealing with just 1 day, right? Okay. Any discussion from the commissioners? Questions? Anything? Voice vote.
A voice vote's fine.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries. So that petition will be heard tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Hiddle.
Thank you. The petitioner for S-5161 Odyssey Apartments Major Preliminary is requesting a continuance to the February 21, 2024 APC hearing so that first, a variance request can be heard by the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. All other cases are set to go forward tonight.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the November 15th, 2023 meeting, public hearing as submitted.
I second.
Any corrections or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business.
I move to hear and vote on resolution 2023-08.
I second. Good evening, David Hiddle with the Area Plan Commission here with your first item. This is a request from the Redevelopment Commission for the City of Lafayette. They are proposing to amend their 2023 consolidated plan, and it's a redevelopment plan, specifically to establish the area bounded in white here, which they would call the Anvil 26 allocation area, and then to amend the plan to add a narrative describing the development that would take place in this area. And it's all for, it's part of their tax increment financing scheme here. The role that the APC plays is that they must consider what is being proposed and then determine whether or not the proposed use conforms or does not conform to the comprehensive plan. What is proposed is a 67-unit multifamily structure on this property, which is north of South Street between 26th and 27th Streets, currently improved with a parking lot and a single-family dwelling, and in place of the lot and the dwelling, the multifamily structure would be built. This is, as we look at what the comprehensive plan says for this area, this is in the Columbian Park Neighborhood Land Use Plan, which was adopted in 2002 and is the prevailing component of the comprehensive plan. It recommends medical business use for this property, which made sense 20 plus years ago when Home Hospital was the dominant anchor in the area, but it has since left. So the medical business use recommendation is kind of a relic. However, that recommendation yielded zoning on this property and a lot of the properties surrounding it of MRU, medical related business, which does allow by right for multifamily use. So in a kind of a circuitous way, staff would assert that what is proposed does conform with the comprehensive plan. So the APC is to determine if that is in fact the case and then vote on that, and that would result in a certified decision. A little more background on that. This is required by state code, likely so that as a matter of checks and balances, so that a redevelopment commission anywhere is not funneling resources towards a thing that doesn't conform with the community's desires for itself as shown in the comprehensive plan. So that's why this is here. I think we see one or two of these a year. The last one we saw was also involving this same plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I believe that Dennis Carson from Lafayette is here to answer questions as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience wishing to comment on this resolution? Are there any comments or questions from the commission?
Does this project utilize then the parking garage? I guess it's probably a question for Dennis.
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director for the City of Lafayette. They are working out an agreement with IU Health to share the parking garage. That was one of the stipulations that we wanted to see for this project.
That's great. So I'm assuming that's significantly underused.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much, yeah. Yeah, that way we have to minimize the surface parking for the project.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Okay, you have a yellow ballot.
12 ballots cast, all in favor of the resolution.
Thank you very much.
I move to hear and vote on Resolution 2023-09.
A second.
We recently got back our multi-hazard mitigation plan from FEMA, finally, after their long review. Over the last year, they've asked for minor modifications in the plan that we submitted. So we made those, sent them on. They've given it an informal approval. The last approval will be done after it's readopted by all the eight participating jurisdictions. So this will be the first step in that. And then it will be sent to the 8 jurisdictions for approval. Once we get those resolutions, we'll send it on and FEMA would give it a formal approval.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Any member of the audience wishing to speak, comment on this resolution? Any questions or comments from the commission? You have a yellow ballot for that one.
It looks 12 yeses and 0 no.
Thank you.
I move to hear and vote on Resolution PD 23-08, Waldron and Third LLC, Patty Wida, Waldron Apartments PD, Z 2861.
A second.
Okay.
I'm going to
Just
recuse
a second,
myself.
Brian.
I need to recuse myself from this one.
Let the record show that Mr. Domkowski is recusing himself on this one. Thanks, Ryan.
Whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
Okay. This plan development was went through the process a year ago, and West Lafayette City Council approved the plan development rezone in September of 2022. This is the location in the Island neighborhood, as it's historically known. This is the current condition of the property, at least last I checked. And then this is the proposed condition, a 5-story residential, multifamily residential building, approved for up to 82 units with a mix of studios, 1s and 2 beds, and a modest parking lot on site. It's in the heart of the campus area, so walking will be the primary mode of transportation. I have a feeling for the folks living here. The final detailed plans consist of both construction plans and final plat. They meet all the conditions required at this stage. Bonding has actually already been submitted and accepted, and we actually have a recording appointment scheduled tomorrow. So this project is ready to proceed once approved. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Does any member of the audience wish to comment on this resolution?
Ryan Munden with Riley, Teeter and Schreier here on behalf of Waldron and Third LLC. We concur with staff's report and recommendation and would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Anyone else wishing to speak? Any comments, questions from the commission? Hearing none, you have another yellow ballot.
Unanimous ballot for approval. That's 11 votes.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Okay, we'll go into our public hearing section, and I will read our meeting procedures. For those unfamiliar with our procedures, the commission would like you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we're only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to comment or provide us with information regarding any subdivision petitions will be given the opportunity to do so. When we're hearing a request for a change in zoning, we're trying to determine if the new zone being requested and the uses allowed in that zone are appropriate to that property and supported by the comprehensive plan. With each case being heard, our staff will present its report. Then the person requesting the rezone will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, those of you wishing to speak in favor of the rezone will be recognized, and then those of you who wish to oppose it will have a turn. This will be your only time to speak. The person requesting the action will be allowed a rebuttal. Plan Commission members will then ask questions and finally vote. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. We are a 17-member body, and a majority of 17 is 9. Regardless of how many commissioners are actually present, at least 9 votes in favor or 9 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 9 of us agree to either approve or disapprove an action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. Our vote on a request to rezone serves as a recommendation to the appropriate city council, town council, or county commissioners who must ultimately decide on changes in zoning. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting is in session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the room before using your phone. All exhibits presented to the commission become the property of the commission.
I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application to be heard this evening and to become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, the Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on the applications to be heard this evening, and responses from checkpoint agencies.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. I'm ready to hear the continuance.
I move to continue S 5161 Odyssey Apartments, major preliminary, to the February 21st APC public hearing.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I move to hear and vote on Z2907 Columbia Properties LLC, Stuart Binning, 415 Columbia Street, PD, CB to PDCC.
All right. Okay, moving into Lafayette's downtown. This is the current location of the site. In context, zoom in there. The office building itself, 3-story office building, was completed in 2000. It presently zoned central business. It has made use of the parking garage behind it, kind of just via agreement with the owner. And the proposal here is essentially to maintain the existing kind of non-residential disposition of the building, but allow them to create horizontal property within it. So because they are purposely avoiding residential uses here, staff didn't feel there was really a need to have any limitations on the number of commercial lots they could potentially create within this building in terms of condominium property. So they do have an unlimited amount of commercial condominium lots they could create within the 3 floors. They're only limited by the 3 stories. So, but past that, the permitted uses for the project will continue to draw from the central business zone, but will exclude certain uses that obviously don't make sense, like auto repair, that sort of thing. And then, of course, they're restricting residential uses as well. Staff believes that this is very supportable and a welcome real estate option for folks interested in commercial property. I have to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Ryan Munden with Riley, Teeter, and Schreier here on behalf of the petitioner, Columbia Properties LLC. As Ryan mentioned, we're not changing the building. However, we are, the PD did include the option of adding some blade signs to the corners of the building to the northwest and the northeast. So that would be the only kind of visible change to the building on the exterior. And as Ryan also mentioned, this adds a commercial real estate option that is either not available currently downtown or is in very limited supply. So with that, we concur with staff's report recommendation and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Any questions, comments from the commission? Okay. You have a yellow ballot.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
This case then received a recommendation of approval and will now be heard by the City of Lafayette at their January 8th council meeting. Next case.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2915, Purdue Research Foundation, R2 to OR.
Okay, moving on to the West Lafayette's corporate boundary. This is in the unincorporated county. You'll see the site highlighted there, zoned R2. In terms of zoning, obviously most of the research park in this location is zoned I3 within the city limits. And then these 2 tracts next to each other, the OR and the R2, also owned by PRF. Obviously, we have OR zoning immediately to the east. This petition would essentially mean to extend that OR zoning to the west, essentially making a single site. The 2 tracts are large enough that they could easily be joined without a major subdivision action unless development would require it. But essentially, that's what we're looking at here. In terms of zoning history, it was zoned in an old industrial category back in the 1970s to its current zone. But obviously, the owners never did anything with it. It's been undeveloped and in crop production, I think, from time to time. Obviously, it's bounded by Hadley Moors and Kimberly Estates to the north and to the west. The site presently has no frontage on Yeager Road. There is a stub street from Hadley Moors, the stub end of Loxley Lane, kind of zoom in there. You'll see it kind of abuts that property. The likelihood of Purdue Research Foundation desiring access from that point is pretty limited. I'll let them speak to that. I think their intention is to join this OR with the other OR site if this is rezoned, and then likely pursue access off of Jaeger, which if combined, then the sites would already have that access. Jaeger Road is still classified as a rural local road, even though it's recently been completed and opened in its extension. Sewer and water available to serve the area. The staff report sort of lays out what the petitioner wanted to disclose about this property and its future. And so I'll let them speak to that. But in terms of our opinions on this, as you may know, the Wabash and Tippecanoe townships are both under study for a future land use plan. That land use plan is in draft form on our website, and we're in the middle of a public comment period that'll close at the end of January of next year. And that plan presently would welcome an OR zone on this site. It essentially declares this particular tract in the county for a non-residential future, so that would mean commercial or light industrial use, and it specifically calls out the OR zone as being appropriate. So that plan is not adopted, so it's not official policy, it's draft policy, but it's worth noting, since it's in process, that that's where it stands presently. And obviously, should the commissioners end up adopting that plan and keeps this land use category there, then it would be official policy. But I felt like I wanted to mention it all the same. So staff's opinion, this is an appropriate zoning change, so we are recommending approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Does a petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Marianne Owen. I'm from the law firm of Stewart and Brannigan, here on behalf of the Purdue Research Foundation. I'm joined this evening with two representatives of the foundation, Brittany Heidenreich and Jeremy Slater. So as we have our discussion, they're available to chat with you all in addition to myself. The staff report, it's outstanding. We absolutely concur with it. It spells out this property as one would hope. There is not a current plan for the property. We are preparing it for future development. In the staff report, there is reference to the Duke Energy Site Readiness Program that this property has been approved for. And that is to encourage industrial sites, business sites for economic development investments. This is quite an outstanding achievement, and we hope to see this come into play in the near future. This rezoning is to allow this property to be used like the balance of the research park and have the industrial zone combined with the office zone in the OR district. If there are any questions, I'm here to try to address them.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay.
If after you've spoken, if you could come over here and just sign in afterwards, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Andrew Roth, resident at 270 Vicksburg Lane, property abutting the west side of the region in question. I have rather large concerns as to the intended usage of this, specifically that Purdue Research Foundation and its representatives have not made any specific and substantive statements as to the intended use beyond we wish to maybe possibly put a building here in the future sometime somewhere. As such, there's concerns as to how this potential new industrial space may impact the livability of the residential area it immediately abuts. Additionally, the concern with that is that, as mentioned, it has zero frontage. All frontage is through Jaeger Road via the adjoining property on the east. Further, in my opinion, increasing the risk of substantive negative impact on the economic value of the properties adjacent, as they would be potentially on the facing the backside, the rather undesirable, unsightly side of an industrial building of some kind, with the dumpsters and the HVAC units, as it were. And again, my concern at this point is predominantly that there is no posted plan for this rezoning beyond changing it now to an industrial application.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I tried.
Okay. Would you like a rebuttal?
My pleasure. This is a process of preparing a site for use. And for a future use that's in line with the research park, this does need to be, the zone needs to be changed to one that is suitable for this office research area. And the OR zone is just that. And it has, within our ordinance, requirements for buffering yards and setbacks, which help to comfort the neighbors, if you will, from the changes that would occur on this site. There's also, in the development of this site, there will be the necessity of improving the access. And for any use of the site, that will be thrust. And as was noted, there is the curve at the corner that will probably be used in connection with the development of the eastern property and this property. At this point, we aren't sure what is going to happen on either property, but we are preparing it for use. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Anything? Okay, you have a yellow ballot.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Okay, thank you. This case received a recommendation of approval, will now be heard by the county commissioners at their January 2nd meeting.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2916, Tippecanoe School Corporation, A to R1.
Thank you, David Hiddlegan, Area Plan Commission, here with Z-2916. It is a rezoning request. Petitioner is the Tippecanoe School Corporation, and they are requesting to rezone the site you see outlined in black on the map in front of you from A for agricultural to R1. R1 is the single-family dwelling district. The property is just under 100 acres at 98.85. At the northeast corner of the intersection of 50 West and 500 North. You can see on the zoning map, it is surrounded to the north, the east, and to the south by R1 zoning, either R1 or RB. And that is to the east and to the south, improved with residential subdivisions. To the north is Harrison High School. To the west, across the street, it is zoned A still, and it is used agriculturally, as is the subject site currently. So it's a request to rezone from A to R1. We refer to the comprehensive plan for guidance within the matter of a rezoning. And both the original 1981 comp plan recommends residential development for this property, as does the new yet unadopted but draft plan. It is recommending at this point medium density residential use for this property. It's not known what exactly the Tippecanoe School Corporation intends to do with the property. They can speak to that when they come to the podium, but they are requesting an R1 rezoning, which does align with the plan and therefore merit staff's approval, recommendation for approval. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you, David. Does the petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Good evening. I'm Mark DeYoung. I'm with the law firm of Stewart and Brannigan, and I serve as counsel for Tippecanoe School Corporation for many years. I used to come to these meetings more often. I recognize some, but not all of you. Thanks for the opportunity to address you. TSC likes the staff report and suggests that you follow it. There's a couple things, they used to read those staff reports. There's a couple things I'd like to just kind of quote from the report. If this rezone should be approved, the rezone would support potential use of and development of this site for R1 uses, including school uses. And the TSC certainly appreciates the County Board of Commissioners making this property available to the school corporation for potential use for schools. As I think you probably all know, TSC is a growing school district, has been for decades. This side of the county is booming. I have a board and a superintendent at the school corporation that is always hungry for more land so that they can decide later what to do with it in terms of meeting the demands of school. This zoning ordinance does not allow school uses in an A zone. So the current A zone is a big problem for the school corporation. The schools are permitted in many zones, including all of the residential zones from R1 to R3 and others, and some of the business zones, including GB and neighborhood business, I think. We selected R1 as the least intrusive of all the possible zones in the current zoning ordinance that would allow us to have school uses there. We don't have any intention of doing something different with it as TSC. We do have intention of buying property that we may or may not use. We don't have a specific plan for every property that we now own. And this opens options to us on the northwest side of the county that we have hoped for a long time. I expect some may be disappointed not that I don't come here with a site plan and a drawing and an engineering study that shows exactly what we're going to do. I simply am not in a position to do that. The school corporation is anxious to own this and happy with the agreement that we've reached with the Board of Commissioners about the transfer of this property, and we would hope for your support. And if you have any questions, of course, I would be happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Ashutosh Katari. I actually live behind this property. The address is 5156 Flower Mound Drive, West Lafayette 47906. I guess my opposition is, just based on trying to get clarity on exactly how this new purchase is going to get used. And I think I've heard from the gentleman before, it's mixed use of medium density homes and potential school usage. So that's very confusing. As a resident who lives right across the property, or actually abuts the property, I would like further clarifications, and I think that would probably calm a lot of the neighbors who live there. It's a pretty dense area when you look at it. If you look at 500 North, the road itself, it is very small. It's just recently been upgraded with the traffic lights. We've gone down that road, 500 North and 50 North. And when you think about the amount of homes you can potentially put in there, if you don't really watch out for that, you could potentially create an issue for the residents who actually live there now. So that's my current position, opposing the view that, hey, I don't mind, I don't think I have an issue with The school corp owning the land is more so exactly what they want to do with it. Are they going to turn around and sell it? For like medium density homes mentioned before? And what would that look like? I think that clarity would help. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this proposal, petition? Questions from the commissioners? Okay, you have a yellow ballot for that one. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to rebut?
David can do it for me if you'd like, but I'll try.
I'm sorry.
We didn't say anything about medium density homes, and neither does the R1 zone. I think what is the concern about medium density is just based on the long-term plan use document from the Area Plan Commission for this area as a whole. So this rezone will not permit any density beyond those allowed in the R1 zone, which, as I said, is the least dense residential zone and the least dense zone that allows schools. If you would like any further clarification, I'm sure that David or Ryan could do a better job than I, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Twelve ballots cast, all in favor.
This case then received a recommendation of approval and will now be heard by the county commissioners at their January 2nd meeting. Next case.
I move to hear and vote on C 2917, L&T Supply LLC, GB to I3.
I second.
In this case, petitioners requesting a rezone of one lot in Concord Center subdivision located off of Fairfield Court on the northeast corner of Veterans Memorial and Concord Road. This property was rezoned by the previous car repair business to the south about 15 years ago, and the current property is zoned GB. The proposal is to rezone it to I3, which would allow the adjacent user to expand their existing business. They need some more warehousing and storage area. And this use is not permitted in GB. So staff is recommending approval. The comprehensive plan calls for industrial use. This is on the very edge of the Isuzu corridor plan from 30 or 40 years ago. And we've seen kind of general business, light commercial use, and light industrial in this area, and this would follow along with that plan. And staff is recommending approval.
Okay, thank you. Petitioner presentation.
Brian Munden with Ryling, Teeter and Shire on behalf of the petitioner, L&T Supply LLC. The petitioner has owned the property immediately to the west and has operated top shelf wood packaging from this location for approximately 10 years. Top Shelf designs and builds custom wood industrial packaging such as crates, boxes, and pallets. As Larry mentioned, the petitioner is looking to expand its business and construct a new building on this parcel, along with use it for outdoor storage as well. We concur with staff's report recommendation. We request your recommendation of approval and be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none. Any questions from the commission? You have your last yellow ballot.
So, yeah.
It takes that long.
We got 12 yes and 0 no.
Thank you. This case received a recommendation of approval, will now be heard by the City of Lafayette at their January 8th meeting. Administrative matters. Ryan.
Yeah, the rental study's been on the website now for the better part of a month. There's, I really don't have a formal presentation here unless there's questions. Main takeaways are that, the data that we've been accumulating has been very, very consistent in terms of vacancies and where they're located. There really hasn't been any major shifts in that. So we're just continuing to report on what we get. Probably the most notable thing is this is sort of the last year that the HUD and the Postal Service were using the old 2020 census tracts. So starting this coming year, they're going to use the 2010 census tracts. This coming year in 2024 is when they're going to switch to the 2020 census tract. So we'll be kind of reorganizing how we present the data, but all that really happened is there were some census tracts that got split in half just due to population shifts. So that'll be reflected in future reports. But other than that, not much to report on. Things are good.
Things are good and we still need housing.
Correct.
Do you think you say there's no real change. Do you think we're seeing a trade-off? Obviously, there's increased housing in West Lafayette and with high rises. Do you think that's offset by the increase in enrollment? Is that?
Yeah, I obviously speculate a little bit on that. I mean, we gather and report on new data in the report, and so it's pretty easy to see trends. We've been doing this over 10 years now, so they've been enrolling kind of fast as they can go in terms of, and at the same time, they're not building on campus in a very robust fashion either. And so that does push the housing problem essentially into the city's lap, mostly West Lafayette's lap. And so as I kind of, mused at the end of the report, I said that, that's, well, being able to react to and meet those demands is important, but the city has other priorities as well, not just to make dormitories. And so, where we decide to allow these big projects, we should be fairly discriminating. That's why the city adopted the West Lafayette Downtown Plan in 2020 to try to be a little more prescriptive about where we want, high-rise student apartments and where we don't. And so, I think City Council may be facing potential rezone petitions in the future that might try to push that and, test council's, commitment to that plan. So I just sort of leave that out as a reminder that there's other things that the city's interested in besides this, fulfilling this demand that is, I would consider sort of a kind of a short-term problem. This isn't this is, a policy that Purdue created of, freezing enrollment, freezing tuition, expanding enrollment to essentially offset the freeze. Obviously that can't go on forever. There's a physical limitation to, enrollment. So as Purdue shifts its policies, we want to make sure that we don't overbuild. I definitely don't think we've done that. And I think the vacancy data we're reporting on reflects that. New units that get built and lease up quick,
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Approval of the January Executive Committee agenda.
I move that the following requests for subdivision be placed on the January 3, 2024 Area Plan Commission Executive Committee agenda at petitioner's request. Placement thereon being without reference to compliance or non-compliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance. That would be RE0087 Firefly Ridge Rural Estate Preliminary Plat and S5168 Cabot and Huntington Edition, a replat of lots 68 and 69, minor sketch.
A second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Director's report.
Thank you. The director's report was distributed earlier today. I don't have anything to add, but would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Hiddle? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any citizens' comments or grievances? Hearing none, just a comment from me. This is my last meeting as president. I've appreciated your patience with me sometimes, and I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot, and the staff has been great. I've appreciated their help, and hopefully look forward to continuing as a member of the of AC. But thank you all, and we'll turn it over to Gary next meeting.
Thank you.
I'm ready.
I move to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
Good meeting.
Diane,